1993. After Canada and so many different places around the world. So these are all highlights. For me, was making my
Hi there. My name is Bradley Wade Jones. I am a co-founder and the president of the Emancipation Day Committee of Windsor. I'd like to take a moment to dedicate this, our first virtual celebration, to our other co-founders. Mr. George White, who unfortunately only got to experience one of the celebrations that he helped create in our very first year. In that same year, Mr. Richard Chico Talbot was our sole sponsor, donating $10,000 of his own money, getting emancipation celebrations back off the ground in Windsor. And of course, our first president, Mr. Paul Hanser, who in recent days has also passed himself. And may they all rest in peace. Now, what is emancipation? Put simply, August 1st, 1834, Britain passes the Slavery Abolition Act, outlawing the owning, buying, and selling of humans as property throughout their colonies worldwide. Now, 187 years later, Canada makes it a national holiday. Now, had you asked me 10 years ago what emancipation meant, I probably, being from Windsor, Ontario, would have referenced the annual celebrations that started at Jackson Park. However, in 1 year that we went out looking for the celebrations, there was nothing to be found. And after a little research, we felt compelled to pick up the torch and carry on with the celebrations ourselves. In founding Emancipation Day Committee of Windsor, I've learned so much that I've tried to share along the way. Windsor's celebrations were certainly not the only ones. There were celebrations going on throughout the former British Empire for decades before. Now, organizing has given me the opportunity to meet with people from all walks of life and to get their perspectives on what emancipation meant. In some cases, folks didn't even know what the word meant. Historians spoke of milestones before and after the Slavery Abolition Act, leading to the Underground Railroad, for example, that was spawned from the opportunity to find freedom in Canada. Past organizers spoke of Mr. Emancipation, Walter Perry, who brought the celebrations to Windsor in 1932 and the glory days that came thereafter. Still others expressed their own views on the necessity, or the lack thereof, of emancipation in the 21st century. However, the most touching and memorable moment came with a reporter asking 4-year-old Miranda Charles what emancipation meant to her, and without missing a beat, she said, "It means freedom." Since 2014, Emancipation Day Committee of Windsor has had its great years and its not so great years. Of course, this being the second year that has been directly affected by something that none of us saw coming, a pandemic that literally shut down the world. This year, in response to restrictions, we've brought the celebration in part directly to you. Creating this virtual celebration has given me the opportunity to meet people and make new friends, like the Honorable Dr. Jean Augustine, like Ambassador Alvin Curling, and to reunite with friends and family like Spider Jones and Robert Small and Francis Jeffers. Now, in keeping with our mandate to learn so that we may teach, I've asked each of these folks what emancipation means to them. In the words of Canadian singer-songwriter Brooke Blackburn, talk to me. So, I want to thank everyone who has made this virtual celebration a possibility. Folks from around the world who sent in shout-outs, from people who made the time to be a part of this production, despite what wars their families were fighting with this pandemic. And a special thanks to our friends at Connects Media for putting this all together and bringing it to you. So, we certainly encourage you to continue supporting and participating and to support other organizations like ours in your area. So, in closing, let me just say, we wish you all the best. Thank you for all of your support, and happy Emancipation Day, Canada.
Happy Emancipation Day, Canada, from us at AM 800. It's Lisa Williams and Mike K. Cook from The Morning Drive.
Yeah, and this marks the first Emancipation Day as a federal holiday. It was voted in earlier this year, and this is the very first one.
Enjoy and celebrate all you can. It'll be different next year when we're out of the COVID restrictions, but yeah, what a great day. August 1st, Emancipation Day.
Windsor, the city of roses, the automotive capital of Canada. A city rich in heritage with a history that cannot be edited or erased. Motor City Community Credit Union, steadfast in ethical values and local decision making, a pillar within this community for the past 80 years. In 1940, we began our mission to enhance the quality of life by changing the way we handle finances and doing things the credit union way. From our first branch at Victoria and University, we stood with you and did what we could to ease the financial fear brought upon by World War II. In the 1960s, credit unions became the first financial institutions across Canada to lend money to women in their own name. As proud Windsorites, we shared in your excitement when the first Chrysler minivan rolled off the assembly line. Credit unions across the country were also the first to offer the convenience of a debit card, full-service ATMs, and in 2013, Motor City was the first Windsor-based credit union to offer mobile check deposits. When we look back at our evolution as a grassroots credit union, we realize that each decade brought about great change, and remember that our members, frontline staff, and community were able to adapt and persevere. For 8 decades, we have continually put people before profits, and we're proud of where we've been, but more importantly, where we're going. Positive member experiences, adapting to ever-changing needs, ensuring you're able to bank in all the ways that are most convenient for you. Experience combined with innovation is what enables us to prepare for the future. Thank you, Windsor-Essex, for giving us much to celebrate. This amazing place we call home, the years we've spent serving it, and the many reasons community is right there in our name. Motor City Community Credit Union. We see what you see. For 80 years and counting.
Hi, Brian Massey here, Member of Parliament for Windsor West. I'm at the Underground Railroad Monument here in Windsor to say to you, I hope you have and your family a good Emancipation Day. Take time to think about the struggles for freedom, take time to think about the racial injustice that we still have today, and take time to think about how we can improve our Canada and our community. I want to thank all those that put this together again, and I can't wait for the day we can all get together again.
Hello everyone, it's Lisa Gretzky here, the Member of Provincial Parliament for Windsor West. I just want to wish a happy Emancipation Day to everyone in Canada. This is such a historically significant day, and I want you to all make sure that you take some time to celebrate, hopefully with some friends and loved ones, safely, following public health protocols. And I'm really looking forward to being able to join you next year in person for the Emancipation Day celebrations. Please take care of yourselves and stay safe.
Please.
Well, my name is Jean Augustine, and commonly known as Honorable Dr. Jean Augustine. I live in the constituency of Etobicoke Lakeshore, the constituency that I represented in the Parliament of Canada for 4 terms as a member of Parliament. It's interesting when someone asks what are the highlights in Parliament, because I usually say I've had so many highlights before I entered the Parliament of Canada. I had a whole life as an educator, as an administrator, as head of Metro Toronto Housing Authority, sat on various and varying boards, both national and provincial and municipal. I also know that it's important to mention that I was elected in 1993 after a lifetime in education. At the same time, when you ask about highlights in Parliament, I got to Parliament as the first Black woman, the first African-Canadian woman elected to the Parliament of Canada. As a result of being the first, everything as it happened, you know, it was like the first Black woman to be in a cabinet, the first Black woman to be parliamentary secretary to Prime Minister, the first Black woman to sit in the Speaker's chair to conduct the business of the House, the first Black woman to represent Canada in so many different places around the world. So these are all highlights. For me, was making my way, finding my way, having gone there with a passion to make sure that, that as an activist as I was, that I was going to make things fair and just, and I was going to look at the situation of our community and what could be done in the Parliament of Canada to help us as people of African descent in Canada. And so my motion to create, asking the Parliament to declare February as Black History Month in Canada was part of that passion. My motion to ask the Parliament of Canada to put the statue of the famous five, the suffragettes, the famous five women on Parliament Hill, when only dead monarchs and statues of prime ministers were allowed on the hill. Getting my colleagues in the Parliament of Canada to address themselves to these social issues that I was passionate about. I consider that part of the success that I had in Parliament.
I couldn't have asked for a more beautiful answer, Doctor. That was wonderful. And I mean, congratulations on every step along the way. That's just an amazing.
All of this didn't happen, you know, there were challenges, there were fall on your behind, there were pick yourself up. Mm-hmm. There was the whole issue of resilience and all of these things that were built into me as I grew up in Happy Hill, St. George's, Grenada. Well, we had great discussions when we knew that in the community with historians and people who ensure that as a community we were well aware of our ancestry and what was happening with us, especially those of us who were educators. And so when we knew that anniversary was coming up, the 200th, the bicentenary of the abolition of the Slave Trade Act, would not end in slavery, but the act that said to the British merchants, you can't send out ships anymore and pick up Africans and bring them across. We had a meeting as to what we could do in Toronto, you know, to commemoralize that, not celebrate, but to memorialize this abolishment. We had this big conversation, a whole group, maybe about 20-something of us. And then when we left at the end of the meeting, it was, what are we going to do and who has the necessary funds to do this? And because I knew and had some contacts within the Liberal Party, and at the time, I thought that I would approach the provincial government and ask if they would fund the community to do some memorialization. And again, making the case that we were not in the history books, we were not in the education modules. There was just so much our young people didn't know about that history and our history. And so as a result, I got the provincial government to agree to put on the table $1 million. So I headed and I was given the responsibility to put together a committee and to do some work and to show how we would spend that $1 million. And so we had a committee that was made up of many of the people who were museum keepers, people who were writing, people who were historians. And we met about once a month, and we planned what we can do and how we should distribute that money. And we looked at 4 areas that we wanted to do some work around. One was education and young people. And so we gave money to organizations that had young people who would take them to Southwestern Ontario, who went to different, Uncle Tom's Cabin, and to different parts of Ontario where there was Black history. Another part was to work with educators to put some modules, some videos, and different scripts in the Ministry of Education teacher training. The third was really to work with community, talking about this. And fourthly, we set up almost like an art gallery, archive, a place where we bring people in, speakers, actors, museum keepers, to talk about that part of the history. And so we divvied up the money, $250,000. And that was how we spent this, with really good support from the Ministry of Culture and Immigration at the time in the provincial government. It was David Peterson's government. And the discussion around, once we had Black History Month, and we now knew that from coast to coast to coast, the historians, musicians, entertainers, educators, everybody was doing something around Black History Month. The conversation came up around, emancipation. Because again, in some of the islands, especially those of us who were islanders, Emancipation Day was celebrated. I'm from Grenada, and Emancipation Day was a big holiday. And I know that in Canada, in Toronto here, there were different festivals that were held. And the Ontario Black History Society has stories of their members going to different parts of Ontario celebrating Emancipation Day. And so it was a big celebration, but it was not a national celebration. In a number of instances, lots of things happen in Toronto because we have a critical mass of African Canadians, but it does not mean that it's spread across the country. And so from 1995, there was talk that we should ask for Emancipation Day to be recognized just as we had Black history recognized. And so I know that Rosemary Sadler had started this, and there were conversations going on about emancipation and what can happen, and looking for commitments from politicians, from members of parliament to support this. And of course, it had been going back and forth with the discussions until it culminated with Senator Wanda from Nova Scotia, who is now in the Senate, to push that forward, supported by Ms. Jari, who is a member from Mississauga or Brampton. And so it really got some life into it, and we were able to get it passed, or it was passed. So we now at a point in time when we can say, all across Canada, we are now going to be celebrating Emancipation Day. And so I want to take this opportunity to wish all those who will be celebrating, all those who have virtual and other ceremonies, I want to say Happy National Emancipation Day in Canada.
Black history isn't just written in the past. It's written today, every day. Black history is written in action. Action by the authors of change, who write a future of limitless possibility. People like Carrie Fulton, who saw injustice and generations ignored. So she set out to bring a voice to communities that have been kept silent, using technology to inspire tomorrow's leaders to fight for their portion of a cleaner world.
If you live on this earth, if you breathe this air, you're an environmentalist. And so climate justice is about empowering communities for the future that we want to build.
Artists like Tim Fielder, who didn't see himself represented in the art that he loved. So he took a pen to a digital screen, encouraging countless generations to dream bigger, giving them the freedom to become superheroes and legends.
More expansive and more diverse voices are coming into being. Digital technology is about moving the human race forward. That's where it's at.
Black history is written by people like Kulile Bilagazi Ofosu, who wanted her daughter to be proud. So she created books and dolls that reflect and celebrate the vibrancy of color, so that every child could look in the mirror and say, I am beautiful.
I don't want any child to ever feel less than. We want to encourage our kids to embrace and celebrate diversity.
Change is all of our responsibility as people and as companies. It's in the culture we build and the community we create. We are committed to empowering change and amplifying Black voices, because Black history is not just written. Black history is made, and it's made today.
Hi everyone, my name is Fabio Costante and I'm a city councillor in Windsor, Ontario, representing Ward 2, which is Windsor's west side. Just want to say happy Emancipation Day to friends, family, to the community I represent and the city that I love. Thank you.
This is T. Carlita coming to you from the In My House Techno Music Show right here in Detroit, Michigan, USA. And I'd like to say to you, happy Emancipation Day, Canada.
Founded in 1975, the Amherstburg Freedom Museum has been serving the community for over 45 years. This museum was based on the dream of our founder, Melvin Max Simpson, who along with dedicated community builders made this vision a reality. The museum preserves artifacts and tells the journey of freedom seekers and their descendants in Canada, in addition to offering tours and educational resources. The Nazarene African Methodist Episcopal Church was established by Reverend Noah Cannon and built in 1848 by formerly enslaved people using field stones taken from local farm fields to build the stone structure. The church was primarily used as a place of worship, but was also used as a school, a general meeting place for the Black community, and as a safe haven for freedom seekers. The church operated as a station stop on the Underground Railroad, one of many across Canada, offering shelter, food, clothing, whatever the congregation could supply to those freedom seekers who were coming across the Detroit River into Amherstburg by any means necessary. The congregation renovated the church in 1888. Some of the renovations include the raising of the roof by 6 feet, the addition of the arched Gothic windows, and the choir loft. At its peak, the congregation had 75 members, but by the early 1960s there were a handful of members left, one of which was Max Simpson, the founder of this museum. The last service in the church was held in 1988, after which the church became part of the museum complex. As time passed, the church began to fall into major disrepair, and after much effort, the church was restored in 1999 and officially reopened in 2000. The Nazarene AME Church was then designated a National Historic Site for its importance as a station stop on the Underground Railroad. The cabin is named after George Taylor, who was an African American who escaped enslavement and fought in the Civil War and came to Canada around 1870. George Taylor lived in the cabin as an elderly man with his daughter Emma, son-in-law Thomas Thompson, and their daughter Azalea. The artifacts on display in the cabin were not owned by George and his family, but were donated by local Black families and represent the type of housing available to residents of Amherstburg between 1850 and 1900. Between 1852 and 1857, 3 buildings went missing from the property of Fort Malden, which is the British military fort on the Detroit River in Amherstburg. The Taylor Log Cabin could be one of those buildings that went missing, but there's no evidence to prove that. What we do know is that by 1855, the cabin is moved from where it was originally constructed and placed on the property adjacent to the Nazarene Church. The property was owned at one point by James Kevill and was passed down through hands of many owners, mostly of English and French descent, and the property was rented out to tenants over time. In 1909, George Taylor's daughter Emma and her husband Thomas Thompson became the first Black family to purchase the home. Mr. Taylor moved in with the family after suffering a stroke and lived there until he passed. The home remained in the family's possession until it was sold to Max Simpson in the 1970s to become part of the museum complex.
Hello, my name is Irene Ward-Davis, and as president of the Essex County Black Historical Research Society, on behalf of our members, officers, and supporters, I want to extend to you our very best wishes for a happy Emancipation Day. Many thanks to the Emancipation Day Celebration Committee of Windsor and Bradley Wade Jones in particular for inviting us to be part of this virtual celebration. We are so thrilled, of course, that finally in 2021, we have achieved federal recognition of Emancipation Day, and that received unanimous support in the House of Commons, and it happened largely through the efforts of people who have worked on that for a very long time, like Rosemary Sadler and Natasha Henry, but certainly with great effort from Senator Wanda Thomas Bernard and her partner in the House of Commons, MP Majid Jahari. So we're so thrilled that they all rolled up their sleeves and got this done. But we know, as people of African descent in Canada, that Emancipation Day has been a very significant celebration for our communities for decades upon decades, since the 1830s, when that first moment of freedom really took hold, August 1st, 1834, when the act to abolish slavery became enforced, when it became real. And we know that not only here in Canada, where slavery ended August 1st, 1834, but in the English-speaking Caribbean and places that were held by the British Empire, it was a very significant date. We certainly understand that for our siblings in the struggle in the English-speaking Caribbean, there was an apprenticeship system in place that somewhat extended the conditions of slavery for them. They did not have instantaneous freedom, but that August 1st, 1834 date is so important to all of us. And for that reason, Emancipation Day continues to be celebrated in Black communities in Toronto, in Windsor, in Chatham-Kent, in other places, and especially Owen Sound, where that wonderful celebration of over 100 years is still going strong. So what does it mean for the rest of Canadians? Emancipation Day is an opportunity to reflect on the true meaning of freedom, to reflect on this country's role not only in benefiting from and perpetuating systems that were built in the time of slavery, those racial systems, those oppressive systems and structures that we still need to dismantle, but considering on an individual and community basis what we can do to further the cause of equality and freedom for everyone. So look around your community. Don't look too far around the world or across the country. Look at what's happening within 5 kilometers or 10 kilometers or 20 kilometers of where you are sitting now and watching this. And think about what you can do to advance the cause of freedom, what you can do to end oppressive structures, what you can do to address white supremacy and racism in all of their forms, and how we can honor the ancestors. We know that for the ancestors, Emancipation Day was such a moment of significance. I am recording this against a virtual background that is focused on the Tower of Freedom Monument in downtown Windsor, which was designed by the great African-American sculptor Ed Dwight and installed and dedicated on October 20th, 2001. So we'll be celebrating the 20th anniversary of that monument and its sister monument, the Gateway to Freedom in Detroit, this October. But we certainly see in those sculpted figures the jubilation and the relief that August 1st, 1834 brought about for many people. For those who were enslaved here in the territories that we now think of as Canada, as Ontario, as Windsor, as Essex County, it meant that slavery ended for them, finally. Although many had been freed or had freed themselves by that point, there were still enslaved people living in Canada up until that legislation passed. But we also know that for many, many thousands more, that end of slavery in what is now Canada and elsewhere in the British Empire meant that there was a place that they could go to finally make their escape from chattel slavery in the United States and to live the lives they had always been capable of living. Lives of self-sufficiency, lives of independence, lives of self-reliance, lives of intellectual freedom, lives of freedom of expression, the ability to go to school or to send their kids to school, the ability to worship together without harassment, the ability to live without those really formalized systems of oppression, even the ability to claim the vote, which every British citizen had. And so it is so significant to people of African descent when we look back on August 1st, 1834. But let's be mindful of what August 1st, 1834 and the celebration of emancipation can mean for all of us. And let's continue to keep that flame of freedom alive. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful Emancipation Day and a wonderful Emancipation weekend, and keep celebrating emancipation all year round.
Happy Emancipation Day from the Chatham Black Historical Society at Black Mecca Museum.
The Chatham Black Historical Society and Black Mecca Museum opened in 1996 when the Wish Center opened in Chatham, Ontario. Since then, the museum and archives have been sharing the story of Chatham's Black community, history, and heritage, beginning in the 1700s. Now let's take a short tour with our president, Dorothy Wallace.
Welcome to the Black Mecca Museum in Chatham here. We like to tell the story of the first Black settlers that came to our area from the 1700s up even till today. Hear the story of Stan Hutton and Eliza Harris and Gunsmith Jones. You can even take a walking tour with us.
With the first stop always being the First Baptist Church, which congregation started in 1841.
Miss John Brown, abolitionist, was here. Mary Ann Shadd, the first female publisher,
whose bronze bust is also the focal point of a stop at the BME Freedom Park on the former grounds of the first BME Church in Canada.
Learn the story of the 1934 baseball team that was so important to the city of Chatham.
And if you're looking to conduct research or family genealogy, we can help with that too in our archive room.
We have over 400 books of telling the story of the Black families that lived here.
Be sure to visit the Black Mecca Museum in Chatham, Ontario.
Please come and learn about all of our history here in Chatham.
For tour times, hours, pricing, and any other information you might require, please visit our website www.ckbhs.org or follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/ckbhs. And if you have any other questions, please feel free to send us an email to info@ckblackhistoricalsociety.org. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Greg Fergus, Member of Parliament for Hull Elmer and Chair of the Parliamentary Black Caucus. Our country has a rich and diverse history. Some stories are less well known than others, but their importance and significance are never diminished or forgotten. Since the 17th century, people of African descent have made and continue to make significant contributions to the cultural, social, and economic prosperity of Canada. While most Canadians are aware of the history of slavery in other parts of North America and around the world, the enslavement of African people in Canada is not necessarily well known or properly recognized. For many Canadians, this may be the first time that they'd come to know that slavery existed in this country at all. I am pleased that through today's announcement of the new designations under the National Program of Historical Commemoration, the Government of Canada is helping to ensure that the history of slavery in Canada is never forgotten. But our work does not stop here. We must continue to collectively fight against injustice and break down the barriers caused by systemic discrimination and bias that continue to weigh heavily on Black Canadians today. I also applaud the work being done by Parks Canada in their efforts to tell broader, more inclusive stories of Canada's past and provide more opportunities for Canadians to learn about our history. This announcement is important because it sheds light on some of the bleakest moments of Canada's history, while highlighting the perseverance, resistance, resilience, and strength of Black Canadians. By sharing these stories with Canadians, we are raising awareness of Black history in Canada and the unique challenges faced by Canadians of African and Caribbean descent. I'd also like to take this opportunity to remind Canadians that this is the International Decade for People of African Descent, as proclaimed by the United Nations General Assembly. This decade, which spans from 2015 to 2024, is an opportunity to highlight and celebrate the important contributions people of African descent have made to Canadian society. It also provides a framework of recognition, justice, and development to fight racism, discrimination, and the ongoing inequalities that Canadians of African descent face. As Canadians, we all must continue to build on these efforts and create a country where more Canadians really have a real and fair chance at success. I encourage everyone to take this opportunity to learn about the experiences and contributions of Black Canadians of the past and the present. Only when we take the time to truly reflect on, understand, and learn from Canada's history can we move forward as a country. This is the time.
Whenever anyone asks me why I am part of the women's liberation movement, I always reply, because I am a woman. What they've said to me is that since I am a Black person, Black oppression is the only oppression with which they expect me to concern myself. But for me not to participate in the women's liberation movement would be to deny my womanhood.
Rosemary Brown was born in Jamaica into a family of strong, educated women. She came to Canada in 1951 to attend university. As a student at McGill and later the University of British Columbia, Rosemary faced pervasive discrimination. It was through adversity that she found her purpose as a leader against racism and sexism.
Indeed, I'm twice blessed. I am Black and I'm a woman. And to be Black and female in a society which is both racist and sexist is to be in the unique position of having nowhere to go but up.
By the mid-1960s, Rosemary was married, had 3 children, and 3 university degrees, including a master's in social work. She was a member of the BC Association for the Advancement of Colored People and appeared regularly as a panelist on the nationally syndicated series People in Conflict.
Unless the women's liberation movement supports the struggles of the poor, of the oppressed races, of the old and other disadvantaged groups in society, it will never achieve its goals. Not to do so would be to isolate itself from the masses of women that make up a large segment of all these groups.
In 1972, she made history by becoming the first Black woman elected to a Canadian legislature. She made history again in 1975 when she became the first Black woman to run for leadership of a federal political party. Rosemary Brown served as the member of the Legislative Assembly for Vancouver-Burrard until 1986. During her 14-year career in provincial politics, she pushed for legislation to prohibit gender-based discrimination and worked toward improving services for immigrants, people with disabilities, the elderly, and other marginalized groups. Rosemary's years in office showed women from all backgrounds that they could make a difference. In the following years, more women held positions on boards and commissions across British Columbia.
This country, Canada, is beautiful and strong only because of the people of both sexes and of all races. And its strength and its beauty will increase only to the extent that it is able to accept and respect all of its people equally.
What do we think about when we hear the word museum?
Perhaps precious works of art?
Historical vases?
Or how about exhibits featuring other underrepresented groups?
In 1988, Lady Salah S. Shabazz started the Black Inventions Museum.
It grew from a 2-table display to a 15-table exhibit in California. And my exhibit toured in the U.S. and in Africa during the 1990s. Those exhibits have educated over 1 million people in 4 countries and 38 U.S. states.
In 2008, Francis Jeffers expanded the mandate to showcase inventors and inventions from other cultures and traditions. The Canadian Multicultural Inventors Museum was founded to showcase Asian, Latin American, Indigenous, and female inventors and innovators.
The Canadian Multicultural Inventors Museum, or CMIM, has showcased these exhibits since the 1990s, producing traveling exhibits that highlight innovators from a wide variety of communities.
These exhibits can be presented at schools, events, or corporations, where our teams will lead patrons through a guided tour of the exhibit and provide engaging, interactive activities. And while we have been showcasing these exhibits since the 90s, CMIM is excited to be expanding operations to include virtual exhibits, resources for teachers, and extended social innovation projects. In an ever-changing world, our traveling exhibits aim to promote positive images and self-esteem in children and adults to teach people of all ethnicities about the contributions that diverse innovators from around the world have given to society.
So, what does this mean for us?
This means we can expose people to many individuals who have overcome barriers to achieve great things. My name is Irene Uchida, and I pioneered the field of cytogenetics in Canada, which helped enable early screenings for chromosomal abnormalities.
Or my invention, which was an automatic lubricator that spread oil evenly over a train's engine while it was still moving. My invention meant that I helped make train travel more efficient.
And in 1998, I became the first Indigenous woman to train as a psychiatrist in Canada, developing emergency psychiatric services, consultation services, and case management for Indigenous people with psychiatric disorders.
We live in a city with people from all over the world, and in order to make people respect each other and live well together, we need to learn about the contributions that others have made to the city and in the world.
Hello, my name is Francis Jeffers. I was born in the native isle of the Caribbean, which is the island of Dominica. Came to Canada at the age of 16. And proud that eventually I went to University of Toronto and did a degree in biochemistry and had the privilege of moving on to work at Connaught Laboratories. Connaught Laboratories was the lab where Banting and Best and Fitzgerald actually discovered insulin and gifted the world insulin, a product which is one of the greatest inventions of the world because 10% of the world suffers from diabetes. And interestingly enough, Banting Best did not get a patent for insulin, but actually donated it to the world. This is the Canadian heritage that we have, This is the country that we live in, that we're passionate about. Eventually worked at in the areas of quality control, production planning, the diversity, marketing. I had a wonderful career for 32 years. But what was a particular interest of mine was the lack of representation of people of African descent in the world of STEM, and particularly in the areas of life sciences that I was involved with. And that led me on a journey to start the organization called Visions of Science Network for Learning, which was a network of science clubs in the Greater Toronto area, which created an environment for students from grade 4 to grade 8 to have fun and make it an interactive process of learning science and technology. Coming out of that was the issue that the history of innovation was very important for the young people, so that they anchor themselves in the history of innovation, and also they are the future of innovation. So coming out of that was the organization called the Canadian Multicultural Inventors Museum, which then created an organization which focused on looking at the history of innovation from a lens, a diversity lens. It allowed that all Canadians, regardless of whatever their background, got to learn about the history of their people, whoever they are, regardless of their race, their nationality, the country of origin, their gender, their sexuality, and understand that everybody has played a role in the world of innovation and the history of innovation. And what it does then is put that young person at the center of the science, so that they understand their role, see their role of how they, from a cultural point of view, got involved in science and technology, and now given the inspiration so that they could move from consumers to innovators within the science field. I think that this opportunity is an opportunity as Canadians, that, and the multicultural aspect of Canada allows us to use that to grow Canada and continue the contributions that Canadians have given to the world. So I want to wish you happy Emancipation Day, and I hope that you have a wonderful day celebrating our Canadianness.
So, what will you discover today? Check out www.multiculturalmuseums.org or follow us on Instagram at cmim.canada. Also, follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn, or contact us at multiculturalmuseums.org/contact for more information.
Hi, I'm James C. Mays. I'm an automotive historian and author of more than 30 books. I moved to Windsor 16 years ago from Montreal because the university asked for my automotive history collection, which I was only too happy to donate. It was large enough that it filled Dr. I can't think of his name, who was the first president, Dr. Leddy's old office. So I was privileged to work out of his office as I wrote books and articles for magazines and newspapers. And then I started working at Mackenzie Hall because someone had heard that I had written vegan cookbooks, which is true. The vegan cookbooks were quite a success. They were called You Can't Get Mad Vegan Disease, which happened just about the same time as Mad Cow started spreading across the world. And I was fortunate that one of my books was named the most important cookbook of the 20th century, and I was given the Vogue magazine Millennial Food and Beverage Award, which was quite an honor. So I worked here at Mackenzie Hall for 8 years teaching vegan cooking and enjoyed sharing that with folks. I mentioned that I moved here from Montreal. I love Windsor. The weather is great. No minus 47 winters, which I appreciate. And they're very short. That's also appreciated. It's good to enjoy southernmost subtropical Canada. And then we have things that we've done, volunteer, sitting on boards, working with folks in the city. I presently am a volunteer at a food bank, and I'm learning enough basic Arabic to be able to speak to our Syrian refugees. I remember when I came to Canada, I didn't speak a word of French, and I learned very quickly, but it was, if I heard a word in English, it made me very happy. So I want our new Canadian friends to feel welcome, and I'm happy to say a few words in Arabic for them to make them feel at home. I do have a short story to tell about emancipation. 1959, grade 1, our class goes to a train station to visit. Grade 1ers really do like trains. We get there, we ride on the train, we tour the station. Everyone's thirsty. We're about to go to lunch. Big lineup for the drinking fountain. Well, I see one that has nobody at it, and I break out a line, and I run across the hall to this drinking fountain, climb up the steps, and I'm drinking having a drink, and a policeman grabs me off of the fountain and starts thanking me, and he's shouting at me, "You can't drink from this fountain. Can't you read?" Pointed to the sign overhead, and it said, "Coloreds only." Now, at 6 years old, I had no idea who coloreds were, but I thought they were pretty selfish not to share their drinking fountain. That's what happens when you're 6. I'm thrilled to be part of Emancipation Day. It's been an honor to work as a special advisor to folks on the board. I also want to say that this is a time of reflection from where we've come from, but equally important is it's a day of hope, to look forward to the day when we are all truly emancipated and there is no hatred in hearts of any Canadian. And I'd like to leave you with this. Rosemary Brown, member of the Legislative Assembly in British Columbia. She was the first black woman to run to be president, a leader of the NDP federally. Rosemary Brown said, "We haven't made it until we all make it. Please make it so." Thank you, and may you have a great Emancipation Day.
Hey everybody, how you doing? My name is Brooke Blackburn. I'm a guitar player, singer, songwriter from Toronto. I'd like to say Happy Emancipation Day, everybody. Happy Emancipation Day, Canada. And thank you to the Emancipation Day Committee of Windsor for having me talk to you and introduce two of my songs today. One song I wrote with my brother Dwayne, a song called Talk to Me, talks about a heritage from Kentucky through the Underground Railroad up to Owen Sound. The other song is called Friends. It's a song I wrote for a friend of mine called Connie Maynard, who passed away, a very good friend of mine that I played with for a while, taught me a lot about the blues and jazz and putting them together. And so I wrote a song for him called Friends. And unfortunately, when friends of mine do pass, I kind of sing that song in celebration of their life. So thank you again. Happy Emancipation Day, everybody. Hope you dig these couple tracks, and peace and love. Thank you very much.
Now we're going to make it, let's see. Now I talked about my family a little bit, about how we came up through the Underground Road from Kentucky, and I talked about the connection in Montserrat. So I'll do this song called Talk to Me. It's a song I wrote with my brother Dwayne. I was playing a gig in Mississauga, and I came and said, Dwayne, man, check these chords out. You know, I forget who was on bass. So I did this C minor. So I started with this, and like I say, I play with my brothers. So I started going like this. I want you to talk to me. Talk to me like I talk to your brother. Talk to me like I talk to your brother. Talk to me like I talk to your brother. Talk to me like I talk to your brother. I said 1868, the Blackburn family had to celebrate, busting down the chains of slavery, feeling free like a man should be, hooked up with the underground, respect the freedom that we have found. So brother, don't abuse the freedom they have and the freedom to choose. Talk to me like I talk to your brother. Talk to me like I talk to your brother. Talk to me like I talk to your brother. Talk to me like I talk to your brother. Let me tell you now. I said, brother, well, alright. Are you my guiding light? Show me a better way for all to live another day. Just be free, just be strong. Let our power lead you on to the promised land. I'll tell you one more time. I said 1848, Blackburn family had to celebrate, busting down the chains of slavery, feeling free like a man should be, hooked up with the underground, respect the freedom that we have found. So brother, don't abuse the freedom they have and the freedom to choose. Talk to me like I talk to your brother. Talk to me like I talk to your brother. Talk to me like I talk to your brother. Talk to me like I talk to your brother. Show me a better way for all to live another day. Just be free, just be strong. Let our power lead you on to the promised land. Let me tell you one more time. I said 1848, the Blackburn family had to celebrate, busting down the chains of slavery, feeling free like a man should be, hooked up with the underground, respect the freedom that we have found. So brother, don't abuse the freedom they have and the freedom to choose. Talk to me like I talk to your brother. Talk to me like I talk to your brother. Talk to me like I talk to your brother. Talk to me like I talk to your brother. Oh, I said, talk to me like I talk to your brother. Talk to me like I talk to your brother. Talk to me like I talk to your brother. Talk to me like I talk to your brother. Talk to me. Yeah. So that tells a little bit about the history. Do you remember the time you sat and had wine? Philosophy we both share. We reminisce the past. You made the music last. Whoa, a present from a friend. I said I will never forget the times we had the music. Oh, my friend, playing jazz in a smoky bar. Your piano, my guitar, felt the magic in the air. From your smile I knew, oh, that the music was true. Didn't want the night to end. I said I will never forget the times we had the music. Oh, my friend. Now I sit down and play, thinking of the time we had, sharing my music and praise. My memories will never ever fade. I said I will never forget the time we had the music. Oh, my friend, playing jazz in a smoky bar. Your piano, my guitar, felt the magic in the air. From the smile I knew, oh, that the music was true. Didn't want the night to end. I said I will never forget the time we had the music. Oh, my friend. Now I sit down and play, thinking of the time we had, sharing wine, music and praise. My memories will never ever fade. I said I will never forget the time we had the music. Oh, the time we had the music. The time we had the music. Oh, my friend. Oh, my friend. Oh, my friend. Oh, my friend. Oh, my friend.
Emancipation Day not only is an acknowledgement and a reminder of what we've accomplished so far, but also a reminder of what's left to be done. As a third-generation Black Canadian, I grew up still experiencing anti-Black racism and racism in and of itself.
That was a highlight as a kid. That was a highlight event for the year. Like, it was always, you know, summer vacation, but can't wait till Emancipation Day.
I was born in Jamaica, and so Emancipation Day is something we have been celebrating since I was a little girl through cultural dances and poetry. As a child, the dark significance of that day did not register to me. Emancipation Day is just a constant reminder of the horrendous history that Black people faced in Canada and around the world.
It's huge, but at the same time it's hurtful because, you know, seeing that we have to be set free for something that shouldn't even be in the first place.
You talk to others or even my own friends, some people still don't know when Canadian Emancipation Day is, or when we talk about a holiday happening this weekend, people usually don't really know which holiday that is. And due to the current political environment and considering that we are in the largest civil rights movement in history, it allows people to take a step back and ask themselves, okay, what's going on where I live and how can I further educate myself on my own history, my own country's history, and what's left to be done.
There is racial tension and that sort of thing going on, but you know, we still have to live together. We have to work together. We have to try and get along.
I definitely see racism becoming a thing of the past in my lifetime. Yeah, that's what I hope.
I envision a society where access to justice for Blacks doesn't start with large-scale protests, but instead timely justice for Black victims is no issue at all.
Don't be ashamed to ask questions. There's always resources that you can turn to, people that you can turn to who will be grateful to educate you on what you're asking, and it'll lead to, you know, a better mindset, and later on you can tell someone else the same things that you learned.
Hi folks, Hannah Niall Ricketts here, wishing you a happy Emancipation Day. It's an interesting time, and I think it's a good time to slow down and take stock of the things that we're grateful for. Our families, our communities, the opportunities that are accessible to us, and the freedom to be who we want to be. Have an amazing Emancipation Day, and all the best to you and yours. Cheers.
Hey, from the 519 Band, we'd like to give a shout out to the Emancipation Day Committee, and happy Emancipation Day to everybody.
Here at Peace Fountain, the city of Windsor, and we just wanted to say Happy Emancipation Day, Canada!
Hi, my name's Paul, and this is Mason. I'm from Manchester, England, but was welcomed into Canada in 1977. I'd like to wish everybody a happy Emancipation Day.
Hi, we're Twice as Nice.
I'm Wesley.
And I'm Shelly.
Coming to you here from our tour in Singapore.
This is for all of our friends in Windsor, Ontario, Canada. We hope to celebrate with you next time. Happy Emancipation Day!
Hello, it's Dan Zelinas here from beautiful downtown Wheatley, Ontario. Wanted to wish everybody a very happy Emancipation Day.
Hello, this is Mike Agent X Clark out of Detroit, one of the founding fathers of the house techno movement itself, and I'd like to wish Canada a happy Emancipation Day, and you guys have a wonderful and prosperous year. Take care.
Hi, my name is Mike Jeter, and I'm in Lincoln City, Oregon, by way of Pontiac, Michigan. And I'd like to wish all of my friends and loved ones over in Canada happy Emancipation Day. Celebrate its importance. God bless you all, and I'll see you soon.
From Trinidad. Hi, my name is Anika from South Trinidad, wishing all of Canada happy Emancipation Day from Trinidad.
Hi, I'm Cheryl.
I'm Soleil. Happy Emancipation Day from Vancouver, BC.
Hi, my name is Bill Ford, and looking back at my life over the last 75 years, I'm proud of many things that I've done. Most recently, my years as a boxing coach, my participation in the Pan Am Games in 2015, including running the torch at my age, and the rejuvenation of my childhood passion for drawing. Here's what Emancipation Day means to me. It is a reaffirmation of my belief that there's only one race, and that's the human race, and that any injustice done to any member of that race is an injustice done to all. So, with that in mind, I would like to wish all of us a happy Emancipation Day.
My name is Tony, and I'm a storyteller. When I was younger, I read stories about outcasts, and getting to see them succeed made me feel like there was hope for me. Something that's really important for me is telling diverse stories. Windows and Intel help me do that my way. I take my stories and I connect them with lesson plans to help kids love themselves a little bit more. If we want new stories, they have to be told in new ways by new people, and I feel really happy when I get to do that.
Spider, I think you mentioned earlier that you're from Windsor, Ontario. If you would give me a little feedback on what was your upbringing in Windsor, Ontario? You know, if you knew Alice Porter, if you hung out in Glengarry, if you knew Uncle Charlie and his boxing club. Where did you actually get all this from?
Well, I grew up in Windsor, and my father was a full-time post office, a postman, and he was a part-time Baptist minister. So we grew up in a Christian upbringing. There was 9 children in our family, 6 boys and 3 girls. And our cousins and relatives lived all around us, so it was kind of cool growing up. I mean, we didn't have a lot. We were fairly poor. 4 or 5 of us slept in one bed, but you know, we had our good times and troubled times just like anyone else. Windsor was a border town, so there was a lot of racism there, but there were a lot of good people too. And Emancipation Day was a big deal for all of us back then, especially in the black community, because it was a 4-day celebration, and people came from all over, and they had a huge parade. It always began with a huge parade, and bands would come, and these brass bands would come in, and I tell you, they could play that music. They'd come from all over: New Orleans, Chicago, Philly, Detroit, Atlanta, Georgia, and they would be marching down the main drag, and they would be just like you'd see a group like Earth, Wind and Fire, or the Tower of Power, or Kool and the Gang be blowing them trumpets and doing the steps. It was something else, and they'd all converge upon Jackson Park. And at that time, Jackson Park had a massive grandstand, and that's where they held a lot of the entertainment. I mean, we had so many big people come up. Martin Luther King came to Windsor for that one year. We had all the great Motown acts, Smokey Robinson and Dinah Ross and the Supremes. They were all there, and all these important people. Mr. Walt Perry was the one that put it together. It was a lot of work, but a massive celebration. And one year we were singing on a street corner in Windsor, 5 of us. And a guy walks by by the name of Larry Shreve, who later became Abdullah the Butcher, famous wrestler. And he says, "Man, you guys should be in that Emancipation Day celebration." So, well, oh man, no, we're not. You guys are good. because everybody sang on the street corners back then. Doo-wop was the big thing, and because we just lived across the border from Detroit, we got everything off CKLW. So long before Toronto and all the other Canadian cities got that music, we were getting it. And so he kept bugging us, and we finally said, okay, we'll go in. But he registered us for this contest. Now, remember, they had groups from all over. This was a big deal. This would be like American Idol. This was huge. That was 1960, the summer of 1960. And so there was Melvin Davis, Tommy Kersey, Warner Talbot, Buck Morgan, and yours truly. And I selected the name the Galahads. And we were pretty good. I mean, we were very good singers. The steps were great. Well, not at first, maybe I'm exaggerating, but the harmony was phenomenal. It was. We had great 5-part harmony. Well, anyway, one of the friends of Abdullah the Butcher, Larry Shreve, his cousin Buster Shreve, had a friend in Detroit, the co-founder of the Spinners, Barry, what was his name? I believe his name was Billy Henderson. That was his name, Billy Henderson. And the Spinners at that time had just come out with one, they only had one hit out. That's what girls are made for. It was before they got into Could It Be I'm Falling in Love and Rubber Band Man and all them other big time songs. So Billy Henderson comes across the border and begins and teaches us how to, all these different steps. And our choreography got really good. And so I'll never forget the night that we appeared at that Jackson Park stage. The 5 of us, and I mean the place was jammed. And we had on these nice dress shirts and black slacks, but we couldn't afford a pair of dress shoes. We didn't have it in the budget. So they went out and bought us 5 pairs of iridescent slippers with hard soles. And it was so cool. But the biggest thing was, at that Emancipation Day celebration, we won. The Galahads won. And it was a feeling I'll never forget. It was such, we were so overjoyed to win this in our own town and beat out all these American groups. And that lives with me to this day. So, but that Emancipation Day celebration, back then to me it was just about that. It was about celebrating. I didn't understand what we were celebrating. I thought we were just having a great party. Because, we weren't taught this stuff in school. So I didn't know Emancipation Day represented the freedom of the slaves. I didn't understand that reaching that point, many had suffered, sacrificed, died, been beaten, been spit on, been attacked. People that fought for our freedom. So Emancipation Day means so much more to me, and that's why when I say Happy Emancipation Day, I mean, we must thank God that we had people that fought for our freedom and sacrificed for that freedom. So I say to you, Happy Emancipation Day. Boxing, to me, was never a passion. It became a way of life. It became a lifestyle. I liked the training. I didn't like getting hit. I had friends that boxed and they did much better than me. Charlie Stewart, out of Windsor. Charlie Stewart became the Canadian light heavyweight amateur champion. Clarence Talbot did fairly well too. Good puncher. Look, I fought in Golden Gloves tournaments and won them. I stayed in the gym and I trained. I had the opportunity to spar with a lot of good pros, which is in itself, it was an honor. I loved the gym, but Spider Jones did enjoy getting hit. people used to ask me, what do you hate about boxing? I said, getting hit, getting hurt. It's a hurting game, as Sugar Ray Robinson used to say. But you know, I was always in good shape because I trained. But music was my passion. I always wanted to share that vibe with the world. From the time I was 10 years old, when I saw the Alan Freed bring his show, the great disc jockey bring his show to Windsor, the Windsor Arena, and I had a chance to see Buddy Holly and Frankie Lyman and Chuck Berry and Little Richard and all those groups, and I saw Alan Freed introduce these groups. I thought, wow, that's what I want to do. I want to get on stage and I want to introduce all these great singers, these entertainers to the world. And I got a chance to do it. I got a chance to open up for the Temptations. I got a chance to open up for Percy Sledge, who sang When a Man Loves a Woman. I got a chance to open up with the Young Rascals, who did Groovin' on a Sunday afternoon. And I got a chance to open up for Jerry and the Pacemakers, who did Don't Let the Sun Catch You Crying. And it was just to meet these people, Tina Turner and Brenda Lee and all these big names. I got my opportunity to do that, and that's what I wanted to do. And then have my own music show. And these were dreams that became reality that a little guy out of Windsor never thought would happen, but they did. Well, I've been very fortunate over the years. Last year, I was given the Order of Ontario, and I never saw it coming. And I remember someone saying, you should have the Order of Ontario for what you do. But look, I do what I do because I enjoy what I do. That's gratification enough to be able to give somebody a better life than you had, or be able to help lift them up. I know what it's like growing. I mean, when I was fighting to get a gig in radio, I ran across a lot of discrimination and racism. And I thought, you know what? I'm never gonna let this happen to other younger people if I can help it. We deserve the same breaks. I'm not looking for a favor, but I believe it's very important to understand that when I pursued this dream of becoming a radio broadcaster, I didn't understand about education then. That a million other people wanted the same thing as I wanted. I thought I could get there on skill alone. That's not happening. Your will has to be as strong as your skill. You gotta want it. And when I finally woke up to that fact, see, because everybody wants to go to heaven, but nobody wants to die. Translation, they're not willing to sacrifice. My father used to say that to me all the time, and I finally caught on one day and woke up and went back to school at 33 years old because I wanted to be in radio. I didn't care about the boxing and the Golden Gloves. That was fine. That's not what I wanted. I never thought for a moment I was good enough to make it as a pro, because I sparred with pros. And some of them guys would, at half my size, whip me like it was my daddy. Who wants that? But I knew in the music, that was my vibe, and I wanted to share it with the world. And look, I'm 78 years old, and I got to tell you something, and this is so true. As long as I'm living, I'm going to keep giving. As long as I'm breathing, I'm going to keep believing. Every day I get up, I try to set a new goal. My wife and I opened the Spider's Web about 10 years ago because during my speaking engagements, I was blessed with the ability to be able to inspire young people, light a flame in them. But you got to feed that flame, that passion. And I thought, many of these young people that I had met didn't have somebody to do that for them. They needed a safe haven, and they needed a place where they could come in and how do you say it? Experience personal growth. So we opened the center. We opened it first of all as a place where they could have a nutritious meal and have a homework program. Then we began to include reading, writing, other computer skills, and then we got into sports and entertainment and arts. So it's well balanced there, and it's free. We don't charge a nickel, and our money contributions do not come from the government. They come from the corporate world. And I've been very blessed to make a lot of connections in the Toronto area through my years in radio and in the media, and I've met a lot of great people who have helped us, contributed to us, and that's why we're able to keep our doors open. But I can tell you, the young people come in there, and you can see many of them first come in, they have maybe a learning disability, they're not doing well in school, but by the time they leave that place, they have caught up, because we don't all learn at the same pace. And so, there's no, the education system is getting better, but we still have to understand that people do not process information at the same pace. That's the problem I had growing up, failing grade 3 and 4. People thought I was dumb. They said it right out. And I began to buy into that. No child is dumb. We need to show them love, and we need to mentor them, and we need to help them build their social skills. And we do that through the Spider's Web Youth Empowerment Center.
Hi, my name is Robert Small, and I'm the artist, creator, and grand poobah of the Legacy poster, a poster that celebrates the achievements of African Canadians. I've been doing it for 28 years. It's something that I distribute across the country to school boards, organizations, businesses during Black History Month, and it's been a flagship of Black History Month celebrations for the last 28 years, and I'm very proud to be doing it. I went to university, graduated from there, University of Windsor, graduated from the U with a degree in sociology and criminology, but I always kept my interest in art going. So what I'll tell you about Legacy is that Legacy is basically the company that I create. We create posters, we create education material for kids, and in addition to that, what we're doing right now, we've employed 4 different students to work on creating an app that would basically be a trivia app for Black History Month. And that's what we're presently doing right now in order to advance ourselves into the future. So I'm looking forward to that, definitely. Yeah, I'll tell you a little bit about my 2 or 3 pieces that are of interest to me, and that's really gotten me to continue on painting. And I went to Hawaii several years ago, and the Hawaiian painters there made a great impression on me. And the reason that they did is because they would always create like landscapes and seascapes and make it look really, really important, right? Real vital, energetic. And I said, well, why don't I just combine the sky and the water to my paintings and such like that in order to make it more vibrant. So these were some of my early experiments. This was one of my early experiments into not only doing portraits, but combining them with water as well as the air, the landscapes, in order to enhance the painting. So this one was called Garden of Eden. So I really enjoyed doing this one because I enjoyed doing the mountains as well as the sky, especially the water. And I did this one recently, which I like like a lot better, right? Just because I feel that it compels a lot of motion, it has energy around it, and I enjoy doing paintings with a lot of detail. So these were 2 that I really enjoyed doing. This this painting, I should say, is really one of my favorites because I really thought artistically that it captured a lot of contrast, that it captured the essence of the people that are profiled in it, and it's something that I really look at and inspires me on to do great things in the next pieces of art that I create. It's really great that Canada has recognized Emancipation Day as a national holiday, but despite that occurring, like any national holiday, that specifically ones that reflect to our history, African Canadian history, or even the history of Canada, that we need to take account the historical events that have occurred in the past and see the relevance that they presently have today. So we should use these national holidays as they've been declared as opportunities to reflect on the past, so then we can improve on the future. So, happy Emancipation Day, Canada. And if there's anybody that wants a copy of my legacy posters, you feel free to go to my website, which is www.thelegacyposter.com. And we'll see you next year.
My name is Alvin Curley. I was born in Jamaica and migrated to Canada in 1965. And upon arriving here in Canada, I actually went on to do various jobs and all that. I did different ways, being in insurance. I sold encyclopedias and I sold the Kirby vacuum cleaners, etc. and all that. And I ended up actually at Seneca College at one stage. And while there at Seneca College, and this is kind of important itself, a segue to what I wanted to say later on. But while at Seneca College, I had promised my wife at the time when I went back to school not to enter in any political or social thing now, but to focus on my studies and all that. And so I went there and, to all and behold, I was tempted at one stage when I saw they were having a student council election. I said, oh, that's interesting. They're all about, I think 97% or 98% were all white people there. So I entered the race as a president without my picture or anything, as just Alvin. And the next thing I would say, curling. And people said, oh, it must be a game. I heard them talking in the school that it must be a game. And I said, vote. And they were then confused. I said, vote Alvin Curling. So eventually, when the election came about, and I ran, and the first time they really saw me, they said, vote for Alvin Curling. I said, oh, that's Alvin Curling. I was voted, and I was elected as the president of the student council in that year. And quickly after that, after graduating, I was supposed to work with the government. And I decided I didn't want to work with the government anymore. So the college had actually asked me to work as a assistant director of student services at Seneca College. So I was there for a couple of years. And then at one stage, I thought after about 14 years, I said, my golly, it's kind of a little bit, not boring, but something else to do. And I thought that there was an election coming along. So I ran, and so and behold, I was like the dog who chases the car. I was going after this goal of running for election as a liberal in a very, very strong conservative area. A wonderful gentleman by the name of Tom Wells, who was moving forward. After the election, I won the riding by the highest vote total in Canadian history, with everybody coming out, black, white, Chinese, and all that. Few blacks were around at that time in those days. But it wasn't I who won, it was the people who won. They came out and they did that. That's my first entry into politics. And I won't go into details of how it happened, but that's for 1985. Now, that was May 1985. Now, the interesting thing about all this, Bradley, is that that was in May. In June, we had what we call a minority government, and I was appointed as Minister of Housing. Just remember now, I went back again in Jamaica, just arrived in Canada not too long before, and now here I am now as a Minister of Government. I didn't even know where the Queen's Park was at the time, and then I got this responsibility as Minister of Housing. So I became a Minister of Housing, and then later on I became a Minister of Education in a form of training and skills development. And and then move on. Then we went on. And then later on, I became, so then I moved on actually. After 20 years or 21 years in politics, I decided that maybe it's time to go. My kids and all that were telling me that, Dad, when are you going to quit? You know, you've been in politics so long and what have you. And then I had a call from the Prime Minister, Prime Minister Martin, who would ask me if I would be the ambassador to Canada, for Canada, in the Dominican Republic, which I accepted. And I went there, and it was a wonderful experience. Just thinking about it. Here I am now, representing Canada as the leader of Canada in a country. I was taken into such an honorable position that it took me months to realize what it is all about. And I remember, there's a little part about it that I remember very well. When I gave my credentials to the president of the Dominican Republic, Leonel Fernandez, and we went to the palace, as they would say, and I was dressed in the rather outlay of whites and all that, and with all the entourage traveling to the palace. And we sat down together in a row before I was awarded as not as the ambassador designate, but now as the ambassador to the Dominican Republic. And he said to me, this is a special day for us. I said, why would it be, Mr. President? He said, you're black. You're from the West Indies. He said, you're a minister of housing, and you come with a lot of experience with parliamentary procedures. This is what we need in our country. We think that we're very blessed about that. And I said, I am blessed to be given an honor to serve such wonderful country and to be a part of this establishment. So I always remember that. It's very important because I realized in the Caribbean too, they were seeking, it's almost like we talk about emancipation. Here we are arriving at a time of reckoning. And he was, when we speak of emancipation too, and then we looked at certain sort of challenges along the way and say that, are we emancipated fully? And some people feel that, of course, that if one say I'm free, but you know what it really is about? It's offers not the destination, it's the victory. It is the challenges that we overcome through that journey. And I recall doing in my demonstration of protests against Bill 26 in about 1996 in the Mike Harris government, that they were pushing through this amalgamation bill. And they were they were having closure on it. Closure means they're just going to give limited time to debate it, and that's it, that's the law. And I didn't get a chance. I have one of the largest writing that people want to hear, how this Bill 26 amalgamating all those cities together. That is the city of Toronto today. That is like North York, East York. You were talking about Scarborough, Etobicoke, and all those cities who had their little mini mayors to become one city, amalgamate them all. It's a good idea of saving, but I'm not against the government bill itself, against the bill. I'm against the process that one is not given the opportunity to speak as a member of parliament itself there. So that day, what I did, when the time came for the voting to come around and they called my name, I didn't stand up at all. I just sat down. They said, people say, well, stand up for your rights. I sat down and didn't move. I did not get up and to be recognized because the process of it all, you have to go through that process to get to the next member to count the votes. So I did not move. And I stood there or sat there for about 48 hours. And at that time, the opposition was very upset. The government was very upset on the government side. The Conservative government was very upset at the time that I was delaying progress itself. Now, if one is emancipated in a sense to move on, and the responsibility that goes along with it, some of the journeys you're on, is that most of the people were still in Scarborough, not emancipated, because there's the government telling them they should not speak, although you have the rights to vote and what have you. So in those days, I sat there, and while I was doing that, there are members on the other side, as I said, the government side, threw the insults and did all kind of stuff about how I was holding up democracy and what have you, and I was holding them hostage. As a matter of fact, I responded to them, in this return, that saying, listen, if I'm holding you all hostage, here is one hostage holder will tell you, you all can leave. You can always go. So the speaker of the day warned me that I should look at the fact that I'm misbehaving in the house, so to speak. And he's going to name me. Naming me, that is, when after he called my name and I don't respond, then they'll ask the sergeant of arms to take me out. And then he then said to me that, if so you tell the sergeant of arms, after he asked me if he wanted to escort me out by force. And I told him I'm not leaving. And the speaker said to him, he reported to the speaker that the member refused to leave, and we may resort to force. At that time, other members in the House, on the side of the NDP and my other colleagues, the Liberals, they decided that they will gather around me and said, well, if you have to move him, you have to move us all and take us all out. Now here's the mistake, here's the hook down. He then decided that to get consultation and advice from other regions, like in England, look for what precedents have been set. If a situation like that had happened, what would happen, what they should do. Well, I presume England at this time responded back by saying, you're on your own. You've never had that decision or circumstances any time, so they have to do what they have to do. He then left the house. He then stood up and said, I have to leave the house until order is retained. Now that is rather a tricky thing. He left the house. In other words, he left the house in my responsibility, because until I get order, you not come back. But before that, when he asked the sergeant of arms to come and escort me out, I told the sergeant of arms that he said, Mr. Curley, you must come along with me now. And I said, I'm not leaving. So I told him, what is it that you want? He said, we don't want to use force. And I said, it would be unfortunate if we use force. That's what I said to the sergeant. Because how would you see them dragging me across the floor, a white man at this time, and see this only black member of parliament, and I wasn't using the racial stuff in established, raising to the term, oh, it looks outside, dragging me across the floor because I did not behave in the way that you all would, after I been denied my expression, or what the people have elected me to do, to express their views in there. So that went on, and then he said, he reported back to the speaker that I still refuse to leave, and he asked me, please do leave, and don't cause it any more trouble for me, because I'm retiring soon, and I don't want all that problems to be involved in my retirement. Then I said to him, I'll promise you one thing. When I'm ready to leave, I'll let you know, and we can walk out. It was the only time, as a matter of fact, after the speaker left the house, is the only time in the house when somebody's been named, after all that 48 hours it went on, through that process, that the members of parliament, on the opposite side I was telling you, throwing their insults and all the remarks that what I was doing, and they wasn't getting anywhere. There were people like the former Minister of Affairs, federally now, he became the minister afterward in the federal government. He was one of the main individuals who was throwing all his barbs around and saying terrible things about, how we're coming here to disgrace the place, etc., etc. Anyhow, That didn't work. I stayed for the 48 hours until they asked me, what's my demand? I said, I'm not demanding anything. There's no demand about this. The fact is, I need a time to express the views of the people of Scarborough North. And the bill itself was so huge, and we should break it up. So we agreed that they will do that, but I must write a letter of apology. And I said, of course I'm sorry that I really caused all this problem, but it is as it is, you know. And eventually, they brought the letter to me and said they will not do any penalty on my behavior as if I step down. So I did leave the House of Parliament at that time after 48 hours, after I had agreed that we should discuss this bill in its detail and giving the people a chance to express themselves. I say that to you in the sense of emancipation, is that sometimes we feel that, yes, we are free. And that is in its word. But along the way of the destiny, or the destination where we want, that we want, there's a long way. There are a lot of things that we must deal with to overcome. And those are just only one thing in overcoming in emancipation. To emancipate people, we must think that it's not about the day itself that we celebrate. We must always think, what are we celebrating? And that's it. And then, that's the story. I would leave it at that.
Our magic is in our love and tears, our fears and our flyness.
I do my hair toss, check my nails. Baby, how you feeling? Woo, child, tired of the foolish, gone dust your shoulders off. Keep it moving, yeah, slow. Step into some new kicks, in there, swimwear, going to the pool quick. Come now, come dry your eyes. You know you a star, you can touch the sky. I know that it's hard, but you have to try. If you need advice, let me simplify. Change the world, we've already started.
You must never be defeated, ever.
I do my hair talk, check my nails. Baby, how you feel?
I am black and proud.
The future belongs to all of us. Feeling good as hell. Baby, how you feeling?
Hi there. My name is Bradley Wade Jones. I am a co-founder and the president of the Emancipation Day Committee of Windsor. I'd like to take a moment to dedicate this, our first virtual celebration, to our other co-founders. Mr. George White, who unfortunately only got to experience one of the celebrations that he helped create in our very first year. In that same year, Mr. Richard Chico Talbot was our sole sponsor, donating $10,000 of his own money, getting emancipation celebrations back off the ground in Windsor. And of course, our first president, Mr. Paul Hanser, who in recent days has also passed himself. And may they all rest in peace. Now, what is emancipation? Put simply, August 1st, 1834, Britain passes the Slavery Abolition Act, outlawing the owning, buying, and selling of humans as property throughout their colonies worldwide. Now, 187 years later, Canada makes it a national holiday. Now, had you asked me 10 years ago what emancipation meant, I probably, being from Windsor, Ontario, would have referenced the annual celebrations that started at Jackson Park. However, in 1 year that we went out looking for the celebrations, there was nothing to be found. And after a little research, we felt compelled to pick up the torch and carry on with the celebrations ourselves. In founding Emancipation Day Committee of Windsor, I've learned so much that I've tried to share along the way. Windsor's celebrations were certainly not the only ones. There were celebrations going on throughout the former British Empire for decades before. Now, organizing has given me the opportunity to meet with people from all walks of life and to get their perspectives on what emancipation meant. In some cases, folks didn't even know what the word meant.
Historians spoke of milestones before and after the Slavery Abolition Act, leading to the Underground Railroad, for example, that was spawned from the opportunity to find freedom in Canada. Past organizers spoke of Mr. Emancipation, Walter Perry, who brought the celebrations to Windsor in 1932 and the glory days that came thereafter. Still others expressed their own views on the necessity, or the lack thereof, of emancipation in the 21st century. However, the most touching and memorable moment came with a reporter asking 4-year-old Miranda Charles what emancipation meant to her, and without missing a beat, she said, "It means freedom." Since 2014, Emancipation Day Committee of Windsor has had its great years and its not so great years. Of course, this being the second year that has been directly affected by something that none of us saw coming, a pandemic that literally shut down the world. This year, in response to restrictions, we've brought the celebration in part directly to you. Creating this virtual celebration has given me the opportunity to meet people and make new friends, like the Honorable Dr. Jean Augustine, like Ambassador Alvin Curling, and to reunite with friends and family like Spider Jones and Robert Small and Francis Jeffers. Now, in keeping with our mandate to learn so that we may teach, I've asked each of these folks what emancipation means to them. In the words of Canadian singer-songwriter Brooke Blackburn, "Talk to me." So, I want to thank everyone who has made this virtual celebration a possibility. Folks from around the world who sent in shout-outs, from people who made the time to be a part of this production, despite what wars their families were fighting with this pandemic. And a special thanks to our friends at Connects Media for putting this all together and bringing it to you. So, we certainly encourage you to continue supporting and participating, and to support other organizations like ours in your area. So, in closing, let me just say, we wish you all the best. Thank you for all of your support, and happy Emancipation Day, Canada. Bye.